Oh my god, I'm a fan of the G2 Drafting Circus today. They absolutely just tugged Weibo all over the place and just dragged them around like by their legs and then made sure that they were not happy with this draft. That's what it felt like, like this felt like a G2 drafting clinic and Weibo is the patient. It was like so smart the way they just forced the draft into certain dynamics. And then when Weibo was placed in unfamiliar territory, they absolutely punished them in terms of like catching them off guard with some of the picks that they went for and really abusing the weaknesses. So let's not hold it off any further. Let's kick it off with how this sort of gets set up, right? Weibo, nothing too crazy. They're on red side here, and G2's it basically allows G2 to set up the draft for the B1 that basically sets the tone for this draft. And once you kind of see the draft unfold, it ends up just being very backwards the whole way through. You'll see what I mean when you can base it off the bans here. So the Nidalee ban is an example of this where they'll just typically ban. It'll be typically banned against players that can't abuse it, and it really messes up a lot of the dynamics with the current junglers in the meta. Let's say like the Sejuanis, the Maokais, the Skarners. It really can like cause a ruckus. Let's put it that way. The other two bans from G2 are dedicated for this Kalista B1, and what makes it so interesting is that G2 is the only team that I've seen so far in this meta where they actually flip the draft upside down. And why? What happens normally, right? Normally they'll just pick like Vi's open here. Some teams will go Ziggs, Skarner's up. Some teams will go Nard. There's a lot of variance, right? But G2, it's never 80 carry, right? Because it always ends up happening that they ban like 20 80 carries in second phase. Then you end up going to the bargain bin, and then 80 carry gets shafted. G2, this case, they just go flip it upside down. They go Kalista on one. They ban the two worst counters, I would say. And then they threaten a response from Weibo because they don't want to get a bad matchup. That's at least their understanding. And a lot of Chinese teams, they do like the Jhin a lot, and then they go for Jhin Rumble. So on paper, it's like all right, right? The Jhin is one of the most scary fake blinds, I would say, in this world's meta. I think it will drop in priority, but in this case, Weibo did pick it fairly early because they felt obligated to respond to the Kalista, right? You want a good matchup. And this is where it gets so spicy. So G2 slammed the Galio, right? And believe it or not, this is actually a Galio soft flex. The reason for this, and they combine it with the Rel, but that's not really like that's just more of like oh yeah, we're not going to pick anything else on top of this type of thing. So the reason they go for the Galio here is that it is the counter pick into the Rumble, but it also disincentivizes Weibo from picking a champion that would necessitate the Galio flex. So we see with Leona response, which is also a bit of a non-answer. It's not really a big deal. And that could be because Weibo don't feel obligated to pick jungle, which is a little bit interesting, I will say. There's not too many jungle combos that work with, I would say, Rumble in this case. You would want AD, you'd want something like a lot of teams would probably just pick Vi in this case and guarantee the lockdown. But because of the Galio, because of the Rel, there's already a lot of protect in this case, so they probably don't feel like it's too strong. And right here, we're already off to a good start. The Galio already prevents the Rumble from being very successful. It's a unique counter to a pick that teams have been getting away with for too long, and it prevents Weibo from picking a good mid laner. So it's like a twofold sort of pick. And now both teams have for the first time, I think, in this sort of world's meta, we've seen the jungle pool get choked a lot. So now we're forced. It doesn't have too much of an impact because now we're forced onto Maokai's Edge unless teams have something absolutely crazy that they want to bust out. But G2 do have that, right? So now it basically lets G2 hold this flex all the way and then forcing mid to go R5, which is not the strongest sort of role you can kind of capitalize on in this meta because there's not that much flexibility, let's say. So G2 just go Ori, they cash out. It's the safest blind possible, and they go Nocturne to take even more advantage of this Jhin pick. And now, when you go Nocturne on 4-5, and you only have mid lane to really respond, there's there is no way that Weibo can use the R5 to counter the Nocturne. So the B4, B5 for G2 is effectively a free R5, right? Because Weibo did not respect the potential like flex pick here, and they got caught off guard thinking about that these picks were quote unquote safe to go for. G2 comes up with a very unique solution to them and forces Weibo to dive down way lower into the tier of picks. Their pick orders out of whack. They remove all the flexibility out of their comp really early on, and they just chokehold them, and that's what gets them such a strong advantage in this draft, right? All the cards are on G2's table. They wait for Weibo to just tell them how to win, and then G2 will just pick those champs. That's how nasty this draft is, and it's not even because Kalista's a priority pick. It's because they know Weibo will respond in this way, and then when they have these picks, they just put so much pressure in draft, and it really shows. This is like an 80-20 draft in my opinion, even though Weibo got like a lot of decent champs, and it's the ordering that just makes it so like I love this sort of manipulation from G2, and I'd love to see more of this, and a really well deserved win. So hopefully this provides insight on this draft specifically, and I look forward to seeing more G2 stuff. So yeah, see ya.